Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. It is the fabulous show of the week, Life in the Baggage Claim. We're back. And hey, Chuck, how
Yep.
is your week going?
That's a loaded question, my friend. Do you mean how's my health and mental state in general? Okay. The look around, open my eyes, look at the world around me. Not so great. I promised myself today, and I mean this, and I know you've heard me say this before. So there are people who are listening or watching who are going, "Yeah, Chuck, you say it all the time." I'm determined not to do too. I'm not going to say none. It's never. That's not going to happen. But to not talk about the president too much. I've been going through, and I don't know if you have. I'm sure people listening go through this. I go through these waves of, it's gonna be okay. It's a shit show. It's gonna be okay. It's a shit show. But what I've tried to do lately is, you put out a bunch of shorts last week, and we got a lot of comments. Thanks, folks. Some of them are slightly
including you're on a list.
That's right. You and I are on notice. We're on a list.
We know we're on somebody's list.
I'm sure we're on plenty lists. None that we wish we were on. But no, it's made me think deeper. Not that I'm putting myself above anybody or anything, but you and I've said this before, but I really think there's never been a more poignant time to say that, politics aside, which is hard, and especially with, and this is, I'm going to try to make this the only thing I say about Donald Trump today, seriously, which is politics is hard when I think his favorite thing to do is fan flames. So it's really hard. I mean, we talked about this a couple of episodes ago. If you go back to Joe Biden or Barack Obama or George W. Bush or H.W., go all the way back, most presidents you did not hear from every day. I mean, right. The news would probably say, President Hauk went from the, met with the leader of Germany today. Okay, fine. But you didn't have the constant media attention and driven by the president. You just didn't. And now it's literally, there's no hour of the day that you can't find that he's stirring something up. And that's all I'm going to say. And anybody who has a problem with that, you're not paying any attention. I'm not saying anything against the man.
The reality is, though, right, he likes that. That is a big part of how he justifies who he is that show, that TV time, right? That's the, he wants to dominate the headlines. And when he's not, he's failing.
Right. And please understand, that's not a slap. That's just, right. I'm saying, I don't care if you're full blown, ultra MAGA, you've got to realize that that's what he obviously enjoys. If he didn't enjoy it,
I mean, it's why he did the Apprentice, right?
Right. Well, I'm saying if he didn't enjoy that, he's the president of the United States. He could tell everybody to screw off and leave him alone for 24 hours, and that would be the end of it. Or he could go off, do what most presidents do, go off to Camp David for the weekend and just be away from the press. But obviously,
you can remodel that space next,
right? And that's, so he obviously enjoys that, and fine, if that's what motivates him, so be it. I'm not saying yay or nay on that. But what I will say is that the last couple of days, I've really tried to step away from that and think about the world, not politics, but the world. And I think I told you this. I know I've told you this. I don't know if I've told the folks listening that I am a podcast fanatic. I listen to history podcasts. I have 4 of them on my phone right now that I'm cycling through. And it just, I know Alexander Hamilton is popular because of, the musical, which is fine. Although the musical was taken from a book written by a man whose name eludes me at the moment, but was probably one of the most sycophantic, he's all in, and he just kind of ignored all the bad stuff. But a lot of the reason why we have the system of government we have right now, and what I mean when I say system of government, I mean economically, is because of Alexander Hamilton and his whole, and I'm being very general here, okay, I'm not a Hamilton scholar, but I had read this before. His whole thing was that we should have a central bank, and he even pushed for the idea that we should have an elected king. Obviously that didn't happen for 200 and 40 years or ish. But the other thing, there were, and I just want you to listen to this. And if you're listening, this is not about right, left, center. This is about human beings. So hear me out. During the Revolutionary War, the U.S. didn't have any money, or they had barely enough money to make it happen. So a lot of the time, they would pay the soldiers with IOUs, like truly from the government. Here's your IOU. When all of this is over, you can turn this in. Now, they got fed and all of that, but they didn't make any money, most of them for the, 3 or 4 years that we fought, however long it was, and don't get mad at me about getting that wrong. Tell me this doesn't sound familiar. When that was going on, some rich folks, because remember, the government at the time was backing these IOUs. So Jim and I are both, I'm a soldier. I've got nothing to my name. I'm getting fed. Yes, my shoes are wearing out. I'm fighting for the Continental Army. I'm fighting for this new country. And I keep getting these IOUs. Jim has some money. He's a landowner. He's whatever. He comes along and says, you know what? That IOU's for $100. Just bear with me here. I'll buy it from you right now for $50. I'm a soldier. I got nothing. 50 in the hand is better than $100 wish. So Jim buys it, and they call those speculators. Alexander Hamilton actually argued, and was successful, believe it or not, that the speculators, basically there were people afterwards, George Washington being one of them, saying we need to pay these people. They fought for our country. They fought and bled, and the only reason we have a country right now is because these guys took up arms and helped us out. Hamilton actually made the argument that no, the speculators should not be in any way judged on this, because they were technically more patriotic because they believed in the federal government, when the soldiers who sold these, who were starving, by the way, sold these to speculators, they were somehow less patriotic because they didn't fully believe in the American experiment. So now fast forward to, we've got billionaires and trillionaires, and we've got all of these people with the, what is it? The 1% have like 50% of the wealth in the world now, or something like that. Yeah. I mean, and those numbers may be a little off, but they're damn close. And I saw, I can't remember, it was an actor. I can't remember who it was. And again, I don't put a lot of faith in what actors, I know they're just normal people. But what I'm saying is, he said something interesting. He said, we've gotten to the point where we judge success solely by money.
Yeah.
If Jim's a multi-billionaire, he's a success. Jim may be the biggest prick on the planet. He may beat his wife. He may, not spend any time with his kids, but he's a billionaire. So you know what? Jim is successful. And what he said is, we've completely gotten away from duty, and duty to not only duty to ourselves and our family, but duty to our community, duty to the world. And what I have seen, and I know, again, I truly believe this is an apolitical statement, but what I have seen is this pulling back from community. I want. And, somebody on one of the comments made me think, and thank you. I mean, even if you disagree with me, I'm built in such a way that if you agree with me, I tend to go, if you disagree with me, it triggers me thinking. And somebody said, when I said something about Jeff Bezos, spending $1 a second for 600 years and still not running out of money, or that, no one, in my opinion, no one should be worth $1 trillion while, 25% of American kids go to bed hungry every night. My point in that was that, not that someone shouldn't have $1 trillion. Well, first of all, if you do a little research, guys, Elon Musk is a trillionaire because of our tax dollars. Tesla has never made $1. The only reason Tesla has stayed afloat is because they get green energy discounts or certificates, and they sell them to other companies. And SpaceX is 100% funded by us through the U.S. military. And by the way, they lose billions of dollars every year. I don't know if you realize this, highest IPO in history, but he had to borrow like $60 billion to keep everything afloat. So again, whatever, he's worth $1 trillion, so be it. My problem with it is somebody said, jealous much or something like that. And the answer is no. Sorry, my initial answer was no, I'm not jealous. And then my next thought was, I'm not jealous, but I can tell you right now without a fucking doubt, and I mean this, and Elon Musk didn't grow up, I don't believe, super wealthy. I mean, his parents were fine, but didn't grow up super wealthy. I did not grow up super wealthy in any way, shape, or form. I grew up decidedly middle class. But if I were magically blessed with say 500, forget the trillion for a minute, $500 billion, the kind of money where neither myself nor my family nor my grandkids, that kind of generational wealth, if you're smart with it, no one in your immediate family will ever have to fucking work again for the rest of their lives. Okay? That kind of money. I can tell you without a shadow of doubt, and go ahead in the comments and tell me I'm full of shit. I can tell you without a shadow of doubt, I would do what my new hero did. And I can't remember her name, but Jeff Bezos' ex-wife.
Right.
She has given away like $200 billion with a B, guys, and she's still fucking wealthy. She still doesn't have to work. She has personal chefs. I don't know what she has, but my point is she can afford all of that, and she gave away almost half of it. I can tell you if I was worth $500 billion today, I would give away at least $100 billion immediately to schools, special needs children, cancer research centers, everything that the government is cutting, and I mean that under Democrat or Republican. I would give as much money to charity as I possibly could, and not as a tax dodge. I know somebody's going to say, well, of course you're going to tax. Okay, fine, it's a tax break. That's written in, but that's not why I would do it, because I could not. And I mean this. Maybe this is the way people are built differently. I could not go to sleep every night knowing that I had more money than probably the bottom 12 countries in the world. And 1/4 of American kids going to bed hungry every night. I couldn't fucking sleep. And that's what I meant, guys. When I say nobody should have that much money, let me take that back. No one should have that much money who gives nothing to charity. I don't know if you know this. Elon Musk has a charity. I can't remember what it's called, but they get sued every year to force them to pay the minimum so that they don't close. This is a man who's worth $1 trillion. I've said it before. Where's the Elon Musk wing of a children's hospital? Where's the Jeff Bezos home for battered women? No, they don't do that. It's more and more. It's me. If those people gave their community like Jeff Bezos' ex-wife, and I'm so sorry I've forgotten your name, ma'am. You're my hero, and I mean that. I feel really bad that I'm 58. It's gone for the moment, but she's my fucking hero. She's given away. It's over $200 billion.
Well, I mean, I think there's a little bit of that back where you go back to Bill and Melinda Gates prior to all the mess that's gone on there. Melinda Gates was a big philanthropist. She, not Bill necessarily, she drove that. She pushed Bill.
Absolutely.
And she made it very important because they had that much money, they should be giving to causes that help people and improve the world. And I think that's when you look at anybody who's got the money and doesn't do that, I get nervous about, because there is something more in their psyche that doesn't make sense. Because at a certain point, and this always comes back to the pillow conversation. The rich man needs as many pillows as the poor man, right? You don't really need any more.
No, you're right.
So when you have enough money to buy every pillow in the world and you don't need any more pillows and you're still making money, why aren't you helping others? So that was also my sense on billionaires and trillionaires not existing. I think it's a way of saying, basically, in a world where we don't have enough equality for everybody and we're not making sure everyone's taken care of, no, billionaires and trillionaires should not yet exist. However, if everybody is living a great life, has health care, can eat food, has a home, has shelter, can get anything they need to be healthy, wealthy, and comfortable, sure, billionaires and trillionaires can exist, right? But right now they're existing on our backs. We're there. We're the foundation that put them there.
So, Jim, I just did the math, and I'm not the world's best at math, so bear with me. If I was worth $1 billion and I invested it to the point of only making 5% of return a year, and I know if you have that kind of money, you hire people to make you a lot more than that, but I'm just at 5% a year, that's $137,000 a day. A day.
What is it? Three times when Elon's
twice what the American
bottom line took a several $1 million hit, he didn't even care, or $1 billion hit, he didn't even care.
But you're talking about twice the salary of the average American family per day, and these people, some of them, again, I'm only talking about the ones who don't. Some of them don't give a fucking penny to anybody. And how much, this is what I understand. You said it, you hit it right on the head. Something in the psyche. What in your psyche tells you that it's never, ever, ever going to be enough? Like they did a study. If Elon Musk, and I'm not hammering Elon Musk, folks, but if he cashed out today and just took his $1 trillion, there's not enough things to buy in the world to spend that $1 trillion. There's just not. I mean, yes, obviously, if every house went up for sale in the United States at the same time, but realistically, like with $1 trillion, he could buy every NFL franchise, every Premier League franchise, and every NBA franchise, and it still be less than 10% of his total wealth.
Yep.
Think about
Doesn't make any
the
sense.
thing is, you and I both know if he bought all of those teams, he'd be making $1 bazillion again. So that's the thing. Even if, like, there's no way that man can't make money, even just breathing, for lack of a better term. So and here's the problem. So now here's the next step I'm going to take, because this is also, I mean, I already knew this, but I started thinking about it. Since Citizens United, which is, I truly believe, the worst thing that the Supreme Court has ever done. Since Citizens United, we have a billionaire, now trillionaire class, who literally, and anybody, please argue with me if you're in the comments, if you really believe against what I'm getting ready to say, I got nothing for you. But if you don't believe that I can give Jim Houck $30 million for his campaign for senator or congressman in my area, and I can now do it anonymously, and I can, there's no limit on it, I can give Jim $30 million. If you think for a second that if Jim gets elected, there's not going to be a phone call or a tap on his shoulder or a note slid under his door in the dark of night saying, okay, now it's time for you to vote for such and such, which makes my life easier, you're loony. Right. That's the problem. Right. Yeah, okay, every vote counts, and Jim's vote means exactly what mine means. And if Jim and I vote for two different candidates, we cancel each other out, and that's the beauty of democracy. But that's not the way the world works anymore. Social media, ad buys, disinformation, all of that is what fuels, unfortunately, most people's decisions as to who to vote for. And if I'm a multi-billionaire or trillionaire or whatever, I mean, Elon Musk spent $250 million of his own money for Trump. And I'm not going to sit here and say, I don't know. I'm not going to say that's what pushed Trump over the edge, but it sure as fuck helped. It sure, if there had been somebody who could have spent $250 million for Kamala, who knows? I mean, for the ad buys and all of that kind of stuff, who knows? But the bottom line is, when you have that much money and you're that driven to make more, it just lends itself to using your money for influence to make more money. And unfortunately, there's nothing wrong with that, except for, we all know from history, including current history, these people are not doing, when they're buying influence, they're not doing it for you and me, Jim. They're not doing it to make our world better. They're doing it to enrich themselves more and more and more. And
and lately it seems they're doing it to build themselves bunkers and places to hide. Because I think if you don't see it, it's coming. Everybody is going to at some point revolt on this, and they're going to be. I mean, look what happened in with the Trumps and what was it? The island over there that they bought.
Croatia?
Croatia, that island, and then they bombed the.
The entire island went up in arms. Like, hell.
I mean, it's not long far off, right, before you could see around the world people starting to rise and say enough, and going after the Trumps and the Xings and the Putins themselves.
Well, so it's interesting you said that, and I'm only going to speak Donald Trump's name on this because it's pertinent to what you're saying. When you had 30, and again, numbers, I've read these numbers, but I'm going to pull it out of my ass. When you had 30-ish% of the American public who hung on his every word, would, defend him no matter what. And it's almost gotten, if it wasn't so serious, it's almost fucking gotten funny where I look at TikTok or YouTube or stuff like that, and they're talking to people who are, Trump fans, and are like, they'll ask him a question. Well, Joe Biden, when Joe Biden did this, Joe Biden did it. Well, actually, Donald Trump did that. Well, I'm sure he had a reason. It's like 10 seconds ago, you were ready to crucify Joe Biden for doing something this person told you. And as soon as they told you it was actually Trump, all of a sudden there's an excuse. And they just, I guess they don't see it, whatever. But anyway, my point is there were 30%-ish who were ride or die with Trump.
Right.
I think that number is dwindling pretty hard right now. And I know we talked about this before, polls can be wonky, but the swing of, I think it's like 40%, the swing of independent voters who voted for Trump who are now who are like, no way in hell, is like 40%. He's underwater with independents. He's underwater with young men who voted him in. He's even almost underwater with Republicans. So you're right. You're talking about there's a reckoning coming. It's here. It's a soft reckoning, I believe. And there was a report, and I think it was AP. But there was a report where a bunch of Senate Republicans got together and had a committee meeting, closed door committee meeting. I think it was yesterday, or it might have been, what is today? Tuesday. Yeah, I think it was yesterday. And they were visibly shaken when they were coming out because somebody leaked that they were like, so I'm going to get these numbers wrong. So bear with me, folks. I know there's going to be somebody who's like, you missed it. Fine. If the president, okay, so historically, and this is just fact, historically, when a president is elected, the off year elections, that party usually loses seats. Whether it's Democrat or Republican, it doesn't matter. It usually holds. They usually lose seats. Statistically, if the president's approval rating is above 60, they lose, I think it was like 12 seats. If the president's approval rate is below 50, I think it is, they can lose up to 62 seats. Like, it's nuts. And he's in the 30s, late 30s, early 40s at all of the ones that you look at. So unless something changes drastically, which I doubt, because the man can't get out of his own way, and I'm not being rude. I mean, like little things like, oh my God, things. And here's the other thing. In his first term and even in the first year, we've talked about this, like Howard Dean with and lost his whole presidential campaign. There were certain lines you couldn't cross in politics without people writing you off. Okay.
Right.
He blew through that in his first term, and he blew through that for the first year. But like, he wants the Save America Act, which we all know why. And Republicans, I mean, MAGA is going to argue with me, but it's because it's going to make it harder to vote for poorer people, which he thinks, well, I believe this because he keeps pushing it. I think he thinks it's only going to harm Democrats. But there's a whole lot of MAGA that, don't have a lot of pennies to rub together that are also not going to be able to vote. But either way, they did this housing bill, bipartisan, like it passed, and I'm going to get the numbers wrong, but it was like, I don't know, 210 to 25 in the House, and it was like 96-4 or whatever. I mean, we're never going to get anything 100 to 0, but it was super bipartisan, and he pushed it off to the side and said, nope, not till the Save America Act. I don't care about affordable housing. As long as we get the interest rate down, everybody will have a house. And you and I talked about this, the ride or dies, a lot of them are peeling off going, hold on, we voted for this cat because we thought he was going to be good for the economy, and the economy's in the toilet. And he refuses to, best economy ever. My polls are fantastic. And again, I'm not hammering Donald Trump. I'm stating a fact. So I think we all get clouded. And I also think, Jim, I think it's the point is that all media is clouding the fact that billionaires are our problem because they're running our government. And even if they're not running our government, they're pushing buttons of our government. And I think whether you're hardcore MAGA or you're hardcore progressive liberal or anywhere in between, I think as a group, as I think we all need to be Americans first. And I don't mean America first. I think we need to be Americans first before we tribalize out from there. But I think we all need to realize that and realize who our real enemy is. And I'm not advocating violence. That's not what I'm saying. But the real enemy is unchecked money And these people are not our friends. They're not there to help us out. They're there to enrich themselves, and we keep getting scraps.
Yeah.
They're eating filet mignon. We're kneeling on the floor eating scraps, and I'm
you know what?
sick of it.
The thing that I've heard and that I've read about and listened to is that now that, and the only thing that seems to matter to anybody is how's the stock market doing, which is really not a true sign of how anything's doing.
No.
Especially knowing how much it can be manipulated and how much we've seen manipulation.
Absolutely.
You know, employment numbers were always a pretty good idea of what's going on. GDP is a pretty good idea of what's going on. And general sentiment in the country is much easier to read than it is saying, well, if the stock market's up, everything's good. If the stock market's up, the wealthy are doing well.
Well, the stock market,
down to.
If anybody disagrees with you, just go back and look at how the stock market surged during COVID. When we were all sitting in our house, people were furloughed, people lost their jobs, businesses were going out of business right and left, and the stock market was surging. The stock market is the most overinflated thing ever. I had a friend of mine.
Talk about when that bubble bursts.
Right. Well, and see when it does. I mean, people.
It's a depression again. I mean,
I had a friend of mine years ago. I haven't talked to him in a long time. He was you have different kinds of friends. You have friends, and then you have like work friends. And then sometimes when you leave the job, you kind of lose touch. And he was telling me, we were talking about politics, and this has been, well, it's been 2018, I guess, and 2019, and we were talking politics, and he said he was a one issue voter, which was abortion. Okay. Okay. I'm a little worried that anybody and do you, but I'm saying with all the other problems in the world, that's your one issue, but that's okay. And he said, all I want is a president who gets rid of Roe v. Wade. And my father, this is his words, not mine. My father told me, always look at the stock market. If stock market's strong, we're okay. And I was just like, dude, I'm not trying to be mean, but you might want to read some books on economics. The stock market, maybe 100 years ago.
I say before the 80s, I think like in the 80s, there was a fundamental shift in the way people perceived the stock market as everybody found their ability to trade and play on their computer with money.
Right. Well, and then 401ks and all became popular and all of that. And now my money's in the stock market. Yeah, your money is in an index fund with 100,000 other people. But the bottom line is yes, you're 100% correct, Jim. I agree with you. I think the stock market is an indicator, but I don't think in any way, shape, or form it's the indicator. And there's a couple of reasons I say that. First of all, it's the truth. And the second reason is if it really was an indicator of how good things going, if it really meant that the economy was stable and chugging along, your buddy wouldn't have been screaming the market's at 50,000, the market's at 50,000. It's a red herring. Well, no, it's a red herring. Don't think she could point at. She couldn't point at the fact that, she wasn't going to say that food prices are up, gas prices are up, healthcare's been cut, and because Medicaid was cut in the big, beautiful piece of crap, everybody's health insurance has gone up. She couldn't say that. So all she could say was, well, the stock market's at 50,000. Well, so who's getting rich off the stock market? Not you and I. We're not, because the problem is, and if you guys do some research on this, if the stock market fluctuates, the first people to take a hit are people who have 401ks.
Yeah.
You and me.
Yeah, because we don't do pensions anymore, which used to be more secure. We just let you kind of gamble your life away.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. We're the ones that take the hit because our 401ks fluctuate. And here's the difference. If Jim's worth $50 billion and he loses $1 billion on paper, I'm not saying that's not going to hurt somebody, but you still got $49 billion. You still got more money than you'll ever spend.
Yeah, I'll get that billion back pretty quick.
Right. Jim and Chuck are working for, we're in middle America, we're making $60,000, $70,000 a year, and our 401k takes a hit. We may have to wait 2 or 3 more years to retire. That's a huge difference than, Joe Schmo losing $1 billion and still having $49 billion to play with, because let's face it, he's got other investments. He's going to make that $1 billion up pretty damn quick.
Yeah. So, Chuck, I'm going to shift this out of this gear for a second. And I want to talk about fireworks displays for the 4th of July.
Hit me, baby.
So did you see how much ordnance was exploded in the skies over DC for 4th of July? Did you see the numbers?
I have no idea. I'll be honest with you.
860,000 pyrotechnic effects and shells. over the course of 40 minutes.
I did read that at one point, because they didn't take into effect the humidity and everything else, the air quality index for like 40
purple.
minutes.
They went purple.
No, they said it was the worst on the planet for like
That's
40
purple.
minutes.
I think the code is purple.
Sorry.
When you're going to die, purple's like how you look when you don't get air.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I know they were evacuating people and having people go into buildings and everything.
Yeah. So they said it was the equivalent of having, a nonstop bombing for several days of Washington, D.C. Now, I am not opposed to a big fireworks show. It was our 250th birthday, and it felt a little lackluster and sad that nobody was really like, I remember 1976. I remember 200 years. Remember how big it felt. How much, there's the tall ships parading. There was coins. There was excitement and things to see and do to remember the country. This year, it felt like we didn't have a lot to be happy about. So it was our 250th birthday, nearly £1 million, nearly, of pyrotechnics.
Jim, I back in 91, I lived in Louisville, Kentucky. And I think it was it was in the fall. I can't remember, be really bad, but they have this thing called Thunder over Louisville.
Yeah.
And at the time, I think it was like the fourth largest fireworks display in the United States.
Right.
I probably have that wrong, folks. Go ahead. It was over 30 years ago. I don't remember. And they had, and I don't know if they still do it, but it was unbelievably cool. They had fireworks, and then they had these huge PA speakers, and they were doing like the William Tell Overture, and like it was sync.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they did that in Boston too. I love that.
That's right, of the Valkyries, but you get my point. And then they have this floating thing in the river it's a floating fountain that does like a fleur-de-lis, and it's got lights, and they were actually shooting them off of that too, and everything else. One of the coolest things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
My point in telling you this is, it was never a shit show they did it on the river, so there was plenty of airflow. They did it in such a way that I don't know if the stuff went in the river and then they scooped it up the next day, but it was professionally done. And that was the city of Louisville, Kentucky. I can't imagine the government couldn't have taken the same precautions.
Washington, D.C. has the happiness, and the states to the east have the happiness of looking forward to a toxic heavy metal rain of strontium and lithium. So, if you thought acid rains were bad, wait till this shit comes down on you. I mean, it's a bit of the whole kind of, when did we stop? When did we lose our intelligence? That's how I look at it. We used to be a country that wouldn't do anything that was risky, usually, right? We normally wouldn't take advantage of, do something that might hurt people. And we've changed that we don't care anymore.
All right, I'm going to go back on what I said earlier, and no, and again,
I didn't mean to bait you into that, but okay.
I know. No, I'm going to answer your question with my opinion, and my opinion is, I don't think we have ever had a president as changeable and as impatient as Donald Trump. And what I mean by that is, they had fireworks when Barack Obama was in the White House. They had fireworks when George W. Bush was in the White House.
And for the 200th anniversary, when we learned the song Points of Light, and we learned all those things, we had a fireworks display all around the country.
Right. But it was, well, first of all, I don't know if you've been reading about this, but there was and I'm going to get the names wrong, but there was America's 250th, and there was like 250th America or whatever. And I've got that.
They were two different things.
One of them was a committee that Congress set up, a nonpartisan committee that Congress set up. And Donald Trump came in with a super PAC, nonprofit, whatever the hell, of sort of the same name, and shanghaied the whole thing and made it about himself. And that's fact, folks.
Speaking of Shanghai, even China did a celebration of fireworks for our 250th anniversary.
Right. But when you've got someone who, he was bragging, it's going to be really, really hot, and I'm going to give a long speech to show him what a badass I am. Not those exact words, but close enough. And then had to cancel at the last minute because, again, like you and I talked about, what genius, and this is not anything about Donald Trump, because this happened a long time ago. What genius decided that the presidential inauguration should be on January 20th in fucking Washington, D.C. It's, for those of you who don't know, it is colder than hell. It's awful. It's usually,
it used to be in March, but they moved it to January.
Right. But so here we go again. I know we don't have any choice over July 4th being July 4th. Like, we can't change that. But who decided to have like, well, we know, but like, well, we're going to have this county fair thing when it's like 118 degrees in the fucking shade and all
I mean,
of that.
honestly, the one thing I thought, the general concept of the county/state fair was a cool idea, because that's really what
Yes.
America does fairs well, right?
No, I couldn't agree more.
Had the proper levels of thought gone into it, there would have been misting systems and ways to cool down, and it would have had more attractions to be more interesting, and different music and different things, and it wouldn't have been about somebody getting up on a speech and preach it. It would have been about what makes America special. Why? And was funny to me is seeing all these other countries talk about what made America special, and we couldn't do it.
Right. And they pretty much say ranch dressing, but that's a whole nother story. That's been cracking me up. But no, yeah, I mean, Jim, you're right. They could have misting facilities. They could have had more shade. They could have had like hydration stations.
I mean, my God, we put that damn wrestling rink up. We could have done a lot of other things.
Thank you. Well, that and then but little things like and if you look at, okay, first of all, we've made jokes about this, and I'm going to make one more joke. Whoever put the original music lineup together is like, what are we in the late 80s, early 90s again? But anyway.
Okay, but wait, stop there. That to me explains exactly what MAGA is. That they're locked in a time when they thought things were great.
True, but the other thing
which is what a lot of white men are stuck in.
No, you're right. You're 100% correct. But I think that, yeah, you're right. But what struck me was that most of and you know, I don't remember how many, but most of the people who were going to perform said, we didn't know this was political. We thought we were doing America's 250th. Now that we realize it's political, we're out. So my point in all this being is, if Donald Trump hadn't made it about himself and had allowed this, we can only imagine, but allowed this congressional thing to go through and had stayed out of it, yeah, absolutely. He's president of the United States. Show up, smile and wave, give a brief speech, introduce somebody, sure. But he had to make it all about himself. I believe, just like I'm sure you believe, that if the congressional committee had done it and Donald Trump had more or less stayed out of it, we could have pulled some good musical acts.
Yeah, and you could have invited him to be there as a wave on appearance, right?
I mean, maybe not Taylor Swift or, you know, Lady Gaga or one of those, but we could have gotten a couple of now country acts. We could have got a couple of bluegrass bands. I mean, I'm just saying, it's DC, it's a 250. We could have pulled some people
instead of the Milli Vanilli
and even they backed out because and here's the frustrating part. So take Donald Trump out of this for a minute. It turned political, and that's what frustrated me. That, if I remember correctly, who was president in '76 was Carter, right?
What?
I think it was Carter.
Carter or Reagan?
76, 80, 80. Might have been Reagan. Anyway, my point is, I remember like you did. I lived in Virginia. I lived up in
Gerald R. Ford. Oh my God, are we both way
76? Really?
Yes.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, just full disclosure, folks. I was 8, so if I don't remember, whatever. But
it's funny because when I did it, I asked AI about that. I love what it first brings up. It tells you what, and then it's like, and there was the Valley Forge Independence Hall review. There was the tall ships parades in New York. I'm like, yeah, that's what people are going to remember, because I remember that tall ship stuff. That was huge.
Well, see, I wasn't there. Well, I saw it on TV, but I'll tell you what I do remember. I lived in Northern Virginia. We lived up on the Blue Ridge Mountains, and I don't remember what they were called, but there was a group of people who rode horseback all the way across, dressed sort of like cowboys and all that, and rode horseback all the way across the country. And they came down Route 7 right outside of my subdivision, and we sat on the side.
We had a pioneer trail go through our town.
Right. So maybe that's what it was. Maybe that's what was it.
They were in like covered wagons and everything.
Yeah.
That's one of those moments where you're like, that's what America was about.
It's funny. We still have pictures. My mom has pictures of it. Like it was yesterday. I was like 8 years old. I'm sitting on the side of the road. They blocked off traffic, and we're smiling and waving. And I think they threw some candy at us and everything else. That's America, Jack. That's apolitical. That was beautiful.
The other thing was, in 1976, the Queen came to visit us for our bicentennial.
Right. And why did this have to become political? And before anybody goes ham on if you put this in a short and anybody goes ham, I would say that if a Democratic president had made this political for the fucking 250th anniversary.
Oh, and there's the proof. Gerald R. Ford was president. He was a Republican. He was not necessarily a justified president because he came in after the biggest crook, you know?
Yeah. But
who we're now comparing to.
One thing, he didn't make it political. It was about, I don't remember, and again, I was only 8, but my parents were very involved in politics. I would have heard it over the dinner table. No, it was a celebration of who we are. And you made a good point, or you started to make a good point. I think the problem is when you have someone in charge of everything who is so deeply politically divisive, and anybody, go ahead and argue with me, the radical left this, the radical left that, the radical liberals, the terrorists and all that. If that's everything that comes out of your mouth, how in the hell do you bring people together for the 250th? This was a blown opportunity. Donald Trump could have stood back, let the congressional committee do it like they were supposed to, the nonpartisan committee,
for something,
and then said, this is a time for all of us to come together.
It's the part where he could have said, look at this. I let y'all, I got you together for this. He could have owned a lot of things in that would have been parts that would have brought his image back up, right? Because there were some people were just waiting for a moment to do that again, right?
And I'll be honest, as much as I can't stand him or his administration, that would be a minute where I would have to come on here and look at you, Jim, and go, he nailed that.
He did it.
I mean, stayed out. He stayed in it because he's president, but he stayed out of it enough to make it about America instead of about himself. And he couldn't do it.
You're right. It's a blown opportunity, right? Because
absolutely,
when it was 200 years, I remember thinking well, you never see that again, right? That's your thing. And there will be nobody sees 200 years. And then when you see 250, it's like that generation gets theirs. The next one's 275. We don't ever do those as big, but we're 50 years off before we get to do this again.
Right.
It's another generation and another time.
Right. So, Jim, do you have a baggie for me this week?
Oh, I think I'm just going to give it to good old Donald J. Trump as he runs the greatest country on the planet with the greatest military and the greatest parades and the greatest fireworks and the greatest sleepers ever.
You heard it here first, folks.
I'm on a list now.
Okay, so I guess it's that time. Here's your happy ending. Jim, imagine we've all been here. It's an early summer's night and you left your truck at the bar because you chose not to drive drunk. Well, someone noticed. That someone is the Montana Bar Fairies, a volunteer effort that is going viral for tucking $5 gift cards under the windshield wipers of that truck and others like it, a reward for making the right choice and not driving drunk. By the time you came to collect your vehicle, you see there's something tucked under the wipers. Oh no, but it's not a ticket. It's the cost of a coffee or latte to help with the hangover. Quote, what started as a small act of kindness, leaving coffee gift cards on cars left overnight at Flathead Valley, Montana bars, has grown into a nationwide movement advocating for stronger DUI laws and supporting families affected by drunk driving tragedies, the nonprofit wrote on their website.
Wow.
Like most volunteering, it requires a bit of a sacrifice. Who wants to get up at 5 a.m. on a Saturday morning in Montana in February just to go give their money away to strangers? Jesse, Beverly, Grace, and Kate, that's who. These 4 bar fairies racked up 142,000 views on TikTok video of them rewarding bar patrons who took cabs home from the Whitefish Winter Carnival. Tim and Kelly left gift cards at 8 vehicles in Paulson, a reward for their owners being the smart ones. They were in turn rewarded with 2.5 million views as commenters praised their effort, generosity, and the brilliance of the idea. In Kalispell, it was Shannon and Brittany's turn. The pair left $20 gift cards on cold Montana morning, totaling $20 gift cards on a cold Montana morning, totaling $100 worth of complimentary coffees for community members that cared enough not to take a potentially life-shattering risk. My people. No, we
just got special effects, by the way, through Riverside.
Obviously,
you're gonna notice. And now we're gonna have, what's gonna happen? We're gonna be sitting there, and each of us is gonna be playing one on each other.
If you're watching this instead of or if you're listening this rather instead of watching, the shocked look on my face, probably priceless. I was like, the hell just happened? But I'll take it. Yeah, no, we had just talked about people not giving back in the sense of community and everything else, and it's so dumb. It's $5.
I mean, that is such an easy thing, and what an
I was gonna say-
amazing way to make an impact. And then, it doesn't kill anybody. Nobody's going to be dead that night.
And that's the thing. I mean, I would bet for any of us that drank in our 20s, everyone's done that at some point where you were
There's
smart
nights
enough.
I don't know how I got home.
Well, I'm saying a friend said, no, I'm taking you home, and they bring you back the next morning. And any of you have been on a date and that happened, we call it the walk of shame, but it is what it is. But no, we've all been there. But I think that's brilliant. They want to toughen DUI laws, but then reward people for not getting DUIs. That, to me, that's the way to do things. Not be like, don't do this and you're evil. And
it's not just the finger pointing. It's raising you up because you made a good decision.
That's right. We need tougher DUI laws because you can kill people. You're driving a 3,000-pound piece of metal down the road. You're impaired. You can kill.
Don't get me started. Don't get me started on all this.
I know, but what I'm saying,
phone in the hand, looking everywhere but forward.
No, I'm with you, but I'm saying, giving somebody a $5 gift card the next morning for being smart enough to not drive home, absolutely fantastic. I think that is what America, I believe, used to be about and should be about. I have no problem.
We're still about that. We just got to find more of it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's not rewarded anymore like it used to be.
But you know what? The more we bring it up, like on our thing here, the more people hear it. People pass it on, pass it forward.
So you hear that, folks?
Finding a moment in your life to do good for other people is a good thing.
So you hear that, folks? Jim and I are spitting knowledge and truth here. So we need 1 million. We need 1 million subscribers.
That's right, 1 million subscribers, and we'll go out and put $5 gift cards on cars.
Hell yeah, all day long. I get up. I'm old. I get up at 4 a.m. anyway.
We only have like 995,950 to go.
There you go. We need some love, people. Make it happen.
All right, Chuck. Hey, great week. Very different for us. I hope everybody caught that. We weren't like Trump, and that's great. I want to show you all that we can be more than just Trump haters. Mm-hmm. And I think that it also speaks to the fact that I think things are changing a little bit. There is some level of in the air of something's brewing, and hopefully it is change. I think we're all ready for something better. So, Jim, hope you all have a great week, Chuck. I wish you the best.
Thank you. Well, just this, one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this the way we talked about it this week is I realized, and I kind of knew it, but I realized just hammering Donald Trump or Republicans or anybody all the time is lazy. And I want to dig deeper. I want to dig deeper into the problems, and I feel like we tackled.
I think you did great. You know what? If people don't see it was different, there's nothing we're going to do to change their opinion.
Correct.
And that's okay. You're allowed to have your opinion.
Absolutely.
We support you. We'll let you speak it.
Nothing all right.
Well, everybody, until we see you again, please like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, and get us up to 1 million subscribers so we can give money out on windshields to people who don't drive drunk.
Exactly.
In fact, we'll do even better. We might give some money to some Republicans who don't be Republicans.
Everybody have a great week.
Bye.